Hey everybody, welcome to this episode of Wealth Simplified. I am your host, Tony Raymond, owner and wealth advisor at Raymond Financial. And today I wanted to talk about the options that you have when leaving a former employer and what to do with that old 401k. So there's really four options that you have after you leave that employer. And I'm going to go talk about each one of them and then give you a pro and con to each scenario. So those four options are going to be: you can cash it, you can take the cash, you can roll it over into your new company's 401k plan, you can leave it where it's sitting at that old company, or you can roll it into an IRA for yourself. So the first one let's talk about is taking out the cash. So it is what it sounds like. They send you a check for it, you take the cash. If I'm going to come up with a pro for that scenario on the pros and cons list, it would be that you receive it and you have full access to it. That's about it. The cons for that scenario is you are going to be taxed on all of it at one time. So let's say you take out $100,000 and we owe 25% on taxes. These are just made up numbers to illustrate a point. Then you're getting that check for $75,000. Also a con, you'll get penalized on that money if you're under the age of 59 and a half. So then you owe another 10%, that's the penalty, for money that you take out and receive yourself. So instead of 100,000, now we're paying 25% in taxes and 10% in a penalty. So instead of a $100,000 account, you now get 65,000. That is an option, as you can take the cash. You just need to be aware of what happens to that cash. Next option is you can just leave it where it is. You leave a company, you go to a new company, you can simply leave that 401k. Hopefully it's invested how you want it to be invested with the options that you're given inside of that 401k. Most of the time there's no rules to whether or not you have to move it. Sometimes there is, but you are allowed to just leave it in that plan and let it sit. Pros to that, you don't have to take any action. It's already there, it's already invested. Cons to that are we might lose track of it over time. If you're somebody who's had 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different jobs, you need to make sure you're keeping track of all of those old 401ks, and having them in a bunch of different institutions just makes that a little bit more challenging. Another con is that you might not pay attention to it if it's not something that's current. You're not adding money to it, you're not looking at it all the time. Maybe the investment options change in the 401k and you're just not keeping quite on top of it. But that is an option to leave it at your old company's 401k plan. Next option, you can roll it to your new company's 401k plan. So if you get another job, you're now employed, you just talk to the administrator on that plan, ask them if that's something you're allowed to do, is move your old 401k into your new 401k. Pros to that are that you're keeping it current, you're keeping it at your new institution so you can stay on top of it, keeping it all consolidated in one account, again, so it's easier to manage and keep on top of. Con of that situation is that it's still tied to an employer. So now you have your new company that has your old company 401k mixed into it. Some people want to keep those accounts separate just in their mind, but it doesn't really matter. Once it's in that account, you just need to make sure you're keeping on top of it. And again, the con is that it's tied to an employer. Last option, you can move it to an IRA, which is essentially just your own 401k. It's an individual retirement account for you specifically. That is what it sounds like. Take the money out of the 401k, put it in the IRA. Pros to this is that you get more flexibility. You have more investment options to choose from. It's also now registered to you instead of a company. It's registered to you as an individual. So we're more likely to keep on top of it. And also it stays current. You'll get updated all the time on that IRA and making sure you see it. Cons to that are probably the biggest one is just make sure you understand the fees that you're paying. If you're working with an advisor or an institution, you need to understand the fees that are associated in the IRA and make sure that those are worth it to you. So those would be really the four options: cash it, leave it, move it to your new company 401k plan, or roll it over to an IRA for yourself. Just a little pros and cons on each of them. So thanks for tuning into this video. If you have any questions, I'll throw my email up here on the screen, but feel free to send me an email to Tony, Tony, at raymondfinancial.com. That's REMUND financial.com. And let me know what else you'd like to see on these videos and what other questions you have. Thanks. Have a good one. Bye-bye.